Howdy, 8th grade. Today we're going to be talking about frequency distributions, what they are, why they're useful, and what to do with them, which is quite a bit of stuff. So I'm just going to jump right in and get started. So what a frequency distribution? Frequency, if you remember back to our physics waves unit, is how often something happens. How often a thing happens. And a distribution is just going to show us a comparison of a lot of different events so we can compare frequencies. So a distribution means we are comparing many of these. So we're going to look at the very simple example of rolling two die at the same time. So I'm going to look at what all the possibilities of rolling two die are. If you have paid attention to all these videos we've done about probability, by the end of the year you will be a master at Dungeons and Dragons. It will be magical. So we are going to look at two different die, and I'm going to make a table like we normally do for my two die and their possible outcome. So when I roll die 1, I could get a 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5, or a 6. Die 2, I could get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and now I'll make a nice little table. So this is every single possibility that could happen. When I roll a die, the die 1 could be any of these numbers along the top, and the die 2 could be any of these numbers along the side. So if my die 1 was a 1, my die 2 was a 1, I'd end up with a 2, because 1 plus 1 is 2. If I rolled a 3 on die 1 and a 2 on die 2, I'd end up with a 5. And that's basically how these things work the whole way around. So this is going to be a 3 and a 3, 4, 4, and 4, because a 3 and a 1 is the same as a 2 and a 2, same as a 1 and a 3. But all those are going to be 4s. And we can just continue down the line like this. Table ends up looking fairly pretty. Tens, 11s, and right where the double 6s are is where, if you got real lucky, you could roll a 12, get a critical hit slaying that dragon. So what we're going to look at here is, again, the frequency of what's going on. So frequency is how often an event happens. So if we look, there's 36 different ways that we could roll two die, but every single outcome is going to be between a 2 and a 12. So there's some things that happen a lot and some things that don't happen quite so often. So let's make a quick little table of it. My results are going to be up top, and the frequency of them I'm going to put on bottom. So I could get a 1, a 2. I could not get a 1. That is a lie. If you roll two die, you're going to get at least a 2. Could get a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or a 12. And then we're going to count to see how often these happen. So there's only one way to get a 2. We know that, and that is right up here. There's 2 ways to get a 3. 3 ways to get a 4. 4 to get a 5. 5 to get a 6. And 6 ways to get a 7. 3, 4, 5, 6. There are only 5 ways to get an 8. 4 to get a 9. 3 to get a 10. 2 to get an 11. And 1 way to roll a 12. And that's how that's going to work. So if we look at this table, this can tell us what the relative probabilities are, so what we're more likely to get when we are playing one of these games. And it's fairly evident to see that the most likely option is the result 7, because it has the highest frequency of 6. And the least likely options are to roll either a 2 or a 12, because then you would only have one possibility out of the 36 rolls. So this is basically all we're going to be doing today. We also want to be able to make some bar graphs out of that. So I'm going to show you guys a bar graph real quick, and then we should actually be pretty much good to go. So let's make a bar graph right here. If we have a frequency diagram, we want to make sure that we have our frequency on the y-axis. So frequency would be right here. And that's going to go anywhere from 1 up to 6. So we're going to make sure we have a little bit of room. 6, 8. This is 1. That would be 5. We'd be good to go. And then for a bar graph, we actually want to make categories on the bottom. because this is discrete data, meaning that there's only so many different things you can get when you roll a die. And because of that, we're going to make sure we have categories. So our first category here is going to be getting a 2, a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sorry about getting a little squished as we got to the end. Didn't quite realize how small my computer screen was. So we're going to go ahead and make these bars for our bar graph, and we should be good to go. Looking at the number 2, our result of 2 has a frequency of 1, so I'll plot that. 3 has a frequency of 2. 4 has a frequency of 3. 5 has 4. Let me try to get that lined up about right. 6 has 5. 7 has 6. And we start heading back down. There. There. And we have it. So looking at this bar graph, it's very easy to see. Let me label this axis. The comparison between what we roll and the frequency of what we roll. So looking at it, we can very easily see that we have the same chance of rolling a 9 as a 5, because those two bars line up about the same. So these bar graphs can just tell us what we're likely to roll, what we're not likely to roll, if it is a good idea to try to shoot the dragon out of the sky with your longbow, or if you should wait for it to land to take out your dagger and stab it in the back. I don't know what you're into. I like Dungeons and Dragons. Otherwise, I don't really have an application for this unless you're planning on gambling. Don't gamble. It's bad. Dungeons and Dragons is better. So I hope you all do the lesson practice, and I will see y'all in class tomorrow. Have a great day.